Come to order, please. I'd like to welcome everybody to the March 24th regular BCC meeting. Before we get started, the record reflect all commissioners are present. Want to recognize some people for our guest. I'm our guest today, but he's also to speak on as we move forward, and that's Sheriff Atkinson. Also, we got Tim here with All Pro Sound. Tim worked on this system yesterday, and I think and Friday too, I guess, try to get it figured out what was causing the problem. We apologize to the public for having the breakdown and all that, but I think we've corrected it, and Tim is also here just to stand by in case it goes south again. Maybe he can figure it out. But right now it seems to be working well, and we appreciate your efforts in getting us back up. Okay, thank you. All right, I'd ask everybody to stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation be read by Pastor Dean Penzo with Calvary Baptist Church. If you come forward, please.
Just like to open with a word of prayer. Thank you for having me this morning. And I'd like to start with a verse. Psalm 91, verse 1 and 2. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him will I trust. Reminding us again who we can trust, who's always faithful. May we pray. Heavenly Father, once again, thank you for an opportunity to come together during these times. They're challenging. We just know that there's things ahead of us that yet are unseen. Father, just pray for wisdom. We pray for this body of representatives that they have open hearts, open minds, and listen to the public, listen to those that they represent. We pray for our president and his leadership. We pray that we set politics aside. We just pray for the people that are being impacted, the businesses. And Lord, we just pray again that during this time of meeting that you give wisdom. We seek you. We seek for your trust. We seek for your wisdom. We seek you for your strength and your comfort. And Lord, we thank you for Jesus Christ. In Him we have salvation. In His name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. I will call this meeting to order. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under additions for your consideration for the agenda, under consent agenda, we'd like to add a March 18, 2020 and March 19, 2020 emergency meeting minutes for approval. Under special meeting and executive session, council would like to add a special meeting for executive session in the Beach Life Land Trust versus Walton County, case number 9019CA217, and that's for today, immediately after this meeting, or at 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock. It was properly advertised. It just did not get to the agenda, so we don't have any legal issues with doing it today. We just want to make sure that you've approved it on the agenda. Under deletion, number 17 is a request to delete the request for direction for the Foreman property located in Santa Rosa Beach. Then a deletion under citizens' request was Doug Wyckoff and David Herring, the request for zoning overlay to protect unique valuable agricultural lands in North Walton County and Caney Creek Cluster Springs area.
Okay, Larry, I noticed also on number 10, under agreements and contracts, that we're removing that to the Waste Management EAL for discussion, so that would be part of this.
Okay.
Changes. So with that being said, is a motion to approve the
Motion to
agenda with
approve.
additions?
Second.
A motion and we get a
Second.
second. And a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. At this time, it's public comment from anyone that has an agenda item, specific agenda item for discussion or questions. Does anyone wish to speak on agenda item right now? All right, seeing none, we'll move into, is there any items to be removed from the consent agenda for further discussion? Seeing none, move on.
We removed item number 10,
Yes, number 10.
so that would be. Pursue,
Well, yeah,
Make
approve
a,
it. as
Motion to
number
approve
10.
consent agenda?
yeah,
second.
right. Okay,
You
good.
made a motion. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I think the next is,
Waste Management.
Waste Management EALs. For the record, I have a conflict of interest. I filed a proper form with the clerk and will not vote. So the first thing up is Waste Management EAL.
Motion to approve. Second.
A motion is second. All in favor say aye. Aye. That, mine don't count. A habit of saying it. The next one up,
Did that include that one that we?
no, it does not. So we'll go ahead and discuss the Memorandum of Understanding with Waste Management concerning limited Sunday hours at the landfill. Mr. Jones?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is something we've done for the last number of years. We expand pickup on the weekends during the tourist season, and in order to make sure that Waste Management has the ability to be prepared on come Monday morning, we allow them to utilize the landfill on Sunday. They pay for those costs, so it's no cost to the county. It's just we need your approval to enter that memorandum of understanding that says we'll facilitate the opening and closing, but they'll pay the costs of doing that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Okay, Mr. Jones, I think you got it.
Our first item, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, is update on the COVID-19 virus. Ms. Holt's here to provide us some information, as is the sheriff. We've got some things we would like to discuss with you, so we can, whatever order you prefer,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, well, I'd like to start out with Holly, and then the sheriff, and then I'll have Jay come up afterwards.
Okay,
Just
Holly
remember,
Holt.
there you go. You're
Got
doing
it this time. Holly Holt, Florida Department of Health in Walton County. I'm just going to give you a little bit of an update from last week. It seems like we've met several times over the last week, but our numbers are increasing in our county. As of this morning, this could change by lunch today. You know, I've talked about this so many times. We've got a lot of testing going on in our community, but as of right now, we have 9 positive cases. 6 are non-Florida residents, 3 are Florida residents, basically, Walton County. There's 5 men, 4 women. We, so far with lab testing, there's been a total of, per our dashboard, and there's There's a little bit of differences with the way that our systems are coming together, but this gives you a little bit of an idea. There's been 21 tested, 9 positives, 13 are pending. 13 are pending results. Out of those 9 positives, we've had 2 between the ages of 20 to 29. We've had 2 positives between the ages of 40 and 49, 1 between the age of 50, 59, 1 between the age of 60, 69, and 3 between the ages of 70, 79. So that's our latest statistics that we have going on in this county.
Holly, I didn't get all that down. Could you start from 49 on again, please?
Sure. Okay, so 2 have tested positive between the ages of 40 to 49. 1 has tested positive between the age of 50, 59. 1 tested positive between the ages of 60, 69. And 3 between the ages of 70, 79.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Holly, I think, or at least I seen it yesterday when the governor was speaking about future actions that have been proffered. One was a total shutdown of the state, which he is not in favor of. We have taken a lot of measures in the last couple of weeks to try and protect as many people as we can. And there will be some discussion in a minute about some possible additional closing of different governmental buildings. Is Department of Health got any additional recommendations, or are they just basically sticking with what it is now? And the main thing I think that needs to be emphasized is the people, not only government, but the people has got to do their part too, to thumb their nose at these regulations or requests or social, whatever they call it.
Social distancing.
There you go, that and all that. They got to be willing to do that. I mean, we already see, based on what we heard from the governor yesterday, when they locked down New York, they're all coming here. And they're bringing those that may have it back into this state. So it's very difficult for us to try and drop that curve down. Whenever we got additional people coming in, is not doing what they should be doing in their own home state.
Right.
So I want it emphasized that people have got to do their part too. I mean, sheriff ain't got enough people. We sure don't have enough people to go out there and make sure everybody is doing what they should be doing to protect themselves and us. So is there anything else the health department is looking at or maybe thinking about?
No, right now they're just really emphasizing the social distancing part, regardless of, what the different counties decide or what the state decides. That has got to be done. People have got to stay away from others as much as they can within that 6 feet. And that's the main thing that we've been given the message. I do want to say, though, as decisions are being made, I think that people, and some people just don't really realize how much work goes into this for everybody. Sheriff's Department, law enforcement, emergency management, us at the health department, we're limited in how many bodies we actually have to get things done. And we all know by what we've seen on the news, the collection sampling test kits that we've been hearing, there's that scarcity. And if it gets to that point in our county and we cannot get those collection sample kits, we can't test. So basically, that comes back as a real need for our counties, because then at that point in time, we cannot test. We're just going to be assuming that, people are positive and going from that standpoint. So, and that is something that is significant for us right now, basically how many collection kits we have. I do want to thank our providers in our community. We've had several that have stepped up to the plate and helped us in the last week or so. We're finding more and more that are actually testing that we were unaware of, but we've got a system now in place that we are working with them, and we know who those are. Our hospital, Sacred Heart, is working very hard to make sure that they're taking care of individuals. But all to say is, this situation encompasses so many different individuals and so many different legs, and let's just say you don't work healthcare, but you may have a family member at home that's sick or immunocompromised or whatever, that could easily come into your household, which affects you. So the social distancing part is very important, and Department of Health is really pushing that. You all, as a local board of county commissioners, can make whatever decision you feel like you need to do for this community, and I will support that 100%.
Okay. Are there any, at the present time, hospitalized because of COVID?
Yes,
Okay. Do you know the number?
yes.
Are you
I
going to
can't
tell me
share
the
that
number?
today. I can't share that today, but we do have some hospitalized. Yes.
I understand that you're under certain guidelines from
Yes.
the state, so,
And that might expand tomorrow. 2 days ago, Jeff and I were just talking about, we were told we could only say this, this, and this, and now on our dashboard, there is more information out there. You can find exactly where these positives are coming from in our county. So it's open to the world now, where those are. So we may have more information, coming that we can share as days go by.
okay. Any questions from the board?
Any idea, or can you share where these are at right now, or do we need to go to the computer?
No,
for
you
it?
can go on the dashboard. You can look at that, Santa Rosa Beach.
Wait, I live in Santa Rosa Beach.
I know. I have a daughter that lives in Santa Rosa Beach.
I don't know what I was on, and I may not be able, it was on the internet, but it looked really official. And it said we had 3 cases that were hospitalized. It was on a Florida website, so I'm assuming I can say that since it's open to the general public.
I think that's on the dashboard.
But anyway, that's what it said, that it had 3 hospitalizations.
Okay. Any other questions for Holly? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Holly.
Thank you.
If you might hang tight just in case something comes up, okay? Sheriff, would you please come forward?
Good morning.
Morning.
What I want to do is just give you a real quick overview of what's going on as in regards to compliance, and then, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not bound by the same rules Ms. Holt is, so I'm going to give you a little broader depth of that and not get outside of my wheelhouse. Right? I think you will see a change in cases inside the next 30 minutes to an hour when the official changes comes up. It's probably closer to 11 to start with. There's another issue which I think is important to realize, because I think some of the general public is not hearing this, which is when you hear the number of cases under investigation. Ms. Holt, I think we're at 40-something, 40-plus, cases under investigation. That's cases when people tell the health department. So a lot of these cases also may be going to private doctors, which is part of the Department of Health's, what they're suggesting you do. So, in fairness to them, a lot of people say, well, what about more cases, more tests being done? There are by private doctors. They only know when you're notified. Am I saying that correctly? Yeah. So until the private entity actually notifies the health department, we don't know how many people are fully being tested. I know their epi nurse is working on that and trying to determine. So I just say that to say this: there's probably quite a bit more testing in the private healthcare than you're seeing, than that list reflects state, as far as county-wide. So I think there are more people being tested. The delay in the testing is, to be honest with you, is breaking us down from a public sector standpoint already. I have 6 people under quarantine currently because we either doctor recommendation or direct contact with patients. That's a problem. The health department has been a really good partner of telling us what addresses, right, so that we don't send somebody in, our ambulances, our deputies, our child protective investigators, our animal control people. We don't want them to go in there and be unprotected to an address we know is under investigation. But that only works if the health department knows. And so that's kind of what we're running into. A lot of these places a lot of addresses are, they're seeking medical care. They just have not notified the Department of Health yet, which is going to be an issue for us for sure. So, and I'll talk a little bit about this weekend in compliance. I think I've talked to several of you or answered fielded questions from the general public about this. By and large, I think that we had very good community engagement and very good voluntary compliance. And listen, this only works with voluntary compliance. Let's be serious here. We had a few places that were trying to hold us out a little bit, and I think really I credit the general public for applying the appropriate level of peer support to do the right thing, which has engaged us to move some of these, make better decisions for everybody's public safety. How about that? Maybe that's a good answer. By and large, again, I think community's been super receptive. Had a lot of business leaders reach out to us. I've tried to name quite a few of them so that you know that they are willfully complying. They're understanding that they're taking a hit. They're taking a hit. But so many of them that I've spoken to have said, "Hey, listen, we understand this is the right thing." I spoke, last week about a business that was going to lose $1 million in the next 2 weeks, and they called me and said, "Listen, we're going to do this before you make that decision because it's the right thing to do." That's leading by example. So, even people that are suffering, and there's a lot of them, they understand that this is a tough situation and it's unique times. I've had great conversations with everybody from the folks at Ocean Reef, wonderful community partners. Jim Shirley, owns a series of restaurants in the South End. Listen, there are people are trying to do the right thing. Now, do you have some knuckleheads? You do. I mean, that's the reality of the world we're in, and we're trying to deal with those people as best we can. But by and large, I feel that people are trying. You're getting a lot of that. So it is a very onerous task between everybody involved, working together with all your staff, our staff, South Walton Fire District. We're doing the best we can to keep things running and to use good safety protocols, which is right now kind of our main concern. So what specific questions may I answer for you?
Question?
This is not a question. It's just not a perception, but I rode down Sunday with,
Right.
and checked the beach accesses. And I'd like to commend the fire department, South Walton Fire Department, for the job the lifeguards are doing. I walked down and talked to them, told them who I was, and, but I want everybody to know, you and the South Walton Fire Department, code enforcement, everybody, whatever you guys need, you need to let us know, because we're serious about this.
Agreed.
And we know we have a huge problem that could get a lot worse. And the job y'all are doing containing the beaches is phenomenal. There was not one person on the beaches that we looked at.
Well, I think that's, as bad as this thing is, the one thing I would say to the general public is, at the end of the day, this is what you ask for your government to do, right? Work together to coordinate, to facilitate. Everybody is on the same page in regard to trying to do this. And that's critical. There is people aren't, you guys know this, nobody's out there fighting behind about what should or shouldn't be done. People are trying to make the best decision in the best interest of the public.
And I commend the public especially for doing that. Everybody that appears to be, especially in my district, to doing the right thing.
For sure.
I'm sure there's been some people sneaking on the beach here and there, but if it is, it's very few.
Yeah.
And I commend the public for that. We all know that this is a serious problem. It's not something that we can just turn our heads and it'll go away. We have to make proactive decisions. And I want all of y'all to know that the board stands behind y'all. Let us know what you need. If you think we need to be doing more, this is no time for yes men. We need.
Well, that's good, because I've never been really good at that.
Yeah,
so,
well, I know. I've known you since you were a little baby, so I know you're not a yes man.
Mr. Chairman, Sheriff, have you seen Grady Park? How busy has it been when you drive by, or any of your deputies drive by?
Well, I mean, the parks in general, north and south, even at the bay and everything,
Right.
is pretty. It's been pretty busy. It's been pretty busy. Now, largely what we've seen is families there, so they're coming together and separating. You're going to have to make that decision at some point how you want to handle that. But it's kind of thing about social distancing. If the two of you come out of a car together, right, The deputy sheriff shouldn't walk around and go, oh, you need to separate, you just got out of the car here. So we're trying to apply some common sense to that, and a lot of people are going directly into the bay. But yeah, I'm not going to lie to you, it's busy. It's busy. And so that's a consideration you're going to have to make. We've tried to say, if you're like people that are launching boats, getting on the water, we're trying to get them out and do that because, listen, that's a good, safe recreational. It's a small group thing that makes sense. Very similar, the analogy would be to some of the private property folks that have called me. And again, I'm not proffering an opinion on that because that's a separate discussion for another time. But people inviting them over. And so I've had several people call me and say, well, do you think this would be okay if we just went over and sat on the beach? I said, here's the thing. When your friends and neighbors are suffering and they're doing the right thing, that's a moral decision you have to make. That's not a legal decision. That's a moral decision you have to make. I know plenty of people on beachfront property. I'm not going to do it. My children aren't going to do it because my friends and neighbors are doing the right thing, and we're going to try and set an example. But I can't make you do that. Those are decisions you're going to have to make. In regard to your parks, I think as long as you can put people on the water, as long as they don't become overflowed, you're just going to have to make that decision based on that level of traffic and go from there. So you've got all the 40-something cases that are under investigation by the Department of Health, right? That is just the Department of Health. That is not Health Mart. That's not, Doctors Medical. That's not somebody in so for instance, 2 of my folks that are on quarantine right now, they were technically suggested that way out of Okaloosa County. So you're not even reflecting them, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say about that is it's a fluid situation. Mm-hmm. I think you're making it based on the best information you have, and I don't think you're going to be wrong in any decision in regard if you make a decision to close those things or otherwise, or leave it open just to launch, for instance. That may be the consideration there.
I agree, because We Care Park, I just drove by my office, is empty.
Yeah.
And there's not enough cleaning supplies for that many children on all the equipment. So I think it's something to consider. But
Sure.
Launching, I agree, except for when Miami turns it into a block party. And that's, that's not what we have going on.
Yeah, and once we get to that, if we're getting to that point, we're going to have to take a little more stern action in regard to that.
Any other questions? Sheriff, if you don't mind hanging for a few?
If I might just make a couple of comments. It's times like these where it's a perfect opportunity to have turf battles. That's ours. That's not yours. Right. I want to commend the sheriff, the South Walton Fire District, the health department and you guys for all being on the same team, all pulling in the same direction.
Amen.
If these guys need us, they call, and vice versa. And those conversations have gone some early in the morning, some late at night. And if it's things that you need to know, we call you early in the morning or late at night. But it is refreshing to know that we're operating as one unit and not separate entities trying to input our own thoughts and ideas into a mechanism that would not work nearly as well as what we have in place with the cooperation of those that we do. So I want to thank the Sheriff, the South Walton Fire District, and the Health Department for their cooperation and communication during this whole process.
I can't, I emphasize, I have several times over the last few years tried to express that to other governing bodies across the state, how much better you can be when you take the time to work together. And so I think this is just a further example of that. I did want to point out that Chief Tim Turner is here with us. Chief Turner is from your Walton County Fire Rescue, is actually the incident commander. So basically anything COVID is running through there, we're trying to balance between the health department, your emergency management, everybody involved. And so that's kind of our central repository. Our incident command fire rescue staff has done a really good job of that. Chief Crawford, you mentioned with South Walton Fire District, wonderful communication across the board. And we're prepared to do this as long as necessary. So thank you. And if you have any questions, I'll be around for a little bit.
All right. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask Jay to come up. While he's coming up here, there's a couple things at the conclusion of his presentation that we need to discuss. One is to continue the local state of emergency. That'll be addressed in a motion in a little bit. And then discussion about some of these parks and other governmental buildings that we may want to consider closing. Jay?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Just wanted to give you an update on what's been going on with the TDC. So after the beach closure last week by the board, we got all the beach accesses closed down as of 9 a.m. on Friday morning, so we were able to act pretty quickly on that. So we did that. We have taken the liberty to close the parking lots at the beach accesses where we can close off the parking. Some of them we're not able to because it's kind of like Inlet Beach, for example, is really, right-of-way parking. So we're not able to really close that effectively. But in areas where it's more of a driveway, we have blocked that off so people will not be able to park there. We are starting today removing the garbage collection stations off the beach. We think that by having those, it encourages people to be on the beach. And then also, it's also a manpower issue of getting people on the beach to get those cleaned out. Since all the boardwalks are now blocked, it makes it difficult for our staff to get down there and collect that garbage. So for the time being, we are removing those. And then just as we move forward, we'll just, depending on the board's actions, we'll then reassess that. So I just kind of wanted to give you an update on that. Wanted to update you on occupancy numbers. So last week, this time, we were at upper 80% occupancy numbers. This week, as of right now, we're at mid 40s. Next week, we drop to the upper 30s. And then the following week, I think people are holding out hope with Easter week that things may return to normal, and so they're not really canceling their reservations. I mean, they have, because they've dropped significantly, but those are around 50%. I suspect as we approach that date, people will probably cancel their plans, as I don't foresee things changing much in the next 2 weeks. So I think those numbers will change. One thing that I did want to point out to the board, though, was the occupancy numbers. So right now, like I said, we're at about mid-40s. But about 43% of that are owner occupied. So that's folks who own their own rentals and they're here for whatever reason, most likely trying to get away from, Atlanta or Nashville or what have you to come here to their second home. So just want to let the board know that those numbers, while they are at that rate they are at 40%, they're actually much lower as far as guests from outside the area.
Okay.
About 20?
About, I would say, mid-20s.
Mr. Chairman. Jay, what is the number one, and I know there's no way it's standard, but what is the best clause out there, or how can we help these people get their money back? Because they've sunk a lot in.
Yeah.
I've got to return a refund, whether it's my fault, I can't get the airplane up, but what can we do so that they can get their money back and maybe come back a different time?
Well, I'll say that, all of these vacation rental properties, they have contracts. And some people are choosing to let people out of their contracts and are refunding money, and others are not. And so that's kind of what we're faced with and I'll say some people are allowing people to move their reservation to another time in the next year. So people are kind of working and doing the best they can under the circumstances. Now, I'll say if there is a property management firm that, won't refund money and you're faced with, okay, do I lose a couple $1,000s or do I go on vacation? Somebody might very well say, well, I'm going to go because I'm not going to lose $2,000. And that is an unfortunate situation that we're in. I would just say that I would just like for people to do the right thing in this situation.
So natural disaster, because hurricane like dive trips.
I'm going to defer to counsel on that.
Unfortunately, there's not very much we can do at all to require these companies to refund the money because it's private contracts between private parties. But like Jay said, and I know Commissioner Chapman said that at the beginning of the meeting, is we can only be successful if people will do the right thing and all come together. And unfortunately, other than encouraging that legally, we can't do anything because they're contracts between private parties. Some of these businesses might have, loss of profit type insurance, where some of these some actions might kick in, but that would also be something we wouldn't really know unless a lot of the bed tax collectors came to us and said, if you do this action, I can collect my insurance. But a lot of them might not have insurance either. We just don't know.
And we've been in contact with the majority of our bed tax collectors and having conversations, and we haven't heard that out of them with the conversations we've been having. So, and I do have a couple of requests from bed tax collectors that I'd like to share with the board just for your consideration. One that I received was for you to consider stopping permitted vending on the beach, even on private property. This vacation rental firm said that it is a challenge, that, they're doing the right thing and they're refunding money and they're stopping, reservations. But then, in their opinion, that it is encouraging people to go to the beach when they see people sitting in those beach chairs. And so I told this company that I would relay that concern directly to the board for y'all to consider if you choose to take any action on that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I fully agree with the people you were talking to. It's a bad optic when you've got people all over this county who are losing their jobs and who are making sacrifices for the public good for a certain few down there trying to make money. And I think those are permits that we issue, and I believe we should suspend every one of them today. And I make a motion that we suspend all beach vending as long as the state of emergency exists.
Okay, got a motion. Is there a second?
I just have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a second.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Is it, these people have contracts with certain rental agencies. Are we stepping on that legally? Are we going to get ourselves in a legal mess for that?
Honestly, with all these actions that we're taking, we can get ourselves, is this on? Sorry. Okay. All the actions we're taking, we have possible consequences as far as that's concerned. With the vendor permits, though, they are licenses issued by the county. We could legally suspend them. Again, though, and this is not a question for me, it's more of a question for the agencies that would be responsible for implementing any of these decisions. I think, like the sheriff said earlier, we've got limited resources, and enforcement's an issue. We've got to get voluntary compliance from all these businesses because we can't enforce, a lot of these matters. But legally, it's a license issued by the county. We can suspend it if you guys want to. There's always a possibility that some creative lawyer will figure out a way to try to challenge it. But in an emergency situation, I think it's justified if this board thinks it's justified. What I would suggest is that we tie it and directly, if the board votes to do this, is that we tie it directly to the emergency declaration order. So it would be reviewed every 7 days, just like the emergency declaration order is.
That was the motion.
That's your motion?
That's the motion. We tie it directly to the emergency. And I would proffer, while I didn't say that, while I didn't include it in the motion, I would proffer that if they don't voluntarily comply with a suspension, that the next thing's revocation. And I would be amenable to that, too.
Right, and I get that. So we can suspend them for now. So we do not have a process to revoke these permits.
But we can make one.
Well, I would caution us to not quite go there. Suspending the permits is one thing. Going through a revocation process is a different thing. We can explore that, but as far as the emergency order, I think the most we could do is just suspend the permits for the 7-day period.
That was the motion.
All right. So the motion is to suspend any permitted vending on private property?
On any
property?
In the county.
It's already suspended on the public property.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah. And as long as the emergency exists, which as long as we declare it an emergency.
All right, and that,
And that's,
Commissioner Nipper, you second that. Is there any
that's
other
reviewed every
discussion?
7 days.
It's reviewed every 7 days. Any other questions from the board?
Sydney, can it just follow the process that we have set up for vendors? Because we do have, if they're not doing the right thing, they have penalties. So wouldn't it just?
The only penalties we have for the vendors are fines that are assessed.
Okay.
We don't have a revocation process. I know we've had discussions about that in the past, but I'm sorry.
That's an arrest under 252.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be technical.
Right.
Do
No,
what?
so as the sheriff just mentioned, if we tie this to our emergency declaration, it is a second-degree misdemeanor, punishable by, up to 60 days and a $500 fine, 60 days in jail and a $500 fine. But again, the enforcement of this is, something for the sheriff and for our code enforcement. And the main thing here is that we get people to voluntarily comply with these orders because, it's if we come in with a heavy hand, I don't know how successful we would be in enforcing these rules.
I mean, again, pragmatically, that's actually probably the easier of any of these to do, just because it's pretty obvious when there's a chair out or there's an umbrella out. So of the things that we're doing, that's probably the easiest to deal with. My experience with the vendors is not the same as you guys normally have, quite frankly. So, I mean, I think we can obviously do this. I think we'll get 100% compliance out of our vendors in this regard. So I just need some direction. If that's what you're going to do, then we'll figure out how to move forward from there.
Okay.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Let me state something here. We got this motion and second to suspend it. Now, we do not meet every 7 days. Based on policy, the decision to extend the emergency order is up to the chair or the administrator. So next Tuesday, we don't have a scheduled meeting, so a decision will be made next Tuesday as whether what we put in place or not. Unless something extraordinary happens, I probably would not even call the board in. We would just discuss it and make the call based upon what we had at that time.
Understood.
I think, as far as speaking for me, I have complete confidence in both of y'all.
I can't give you a raise.
I was fishing for one.
Okay, in reference to the motion and the second, is there any public comment concerning that motion? Brian, come on up.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it. Can we go ahead and determine who's going to enforce? Is it going to be code enforcement or is it going to be sheriff? Because if it's going to be under the LSC, it's a criminal matter. If it's also considered a municipal violation, it's a different thing. So I think we ought to do it is just I really think the sheriff ought to enforce it.
Hang on a minute. Sheriff, come on.
Yeah, let's actually just simplify this first. Education first, ask them. So if code enforcement will ask them, your beach member, if they don't get compliance, then we'll take care of it, absolutely. But yeah, we're not asking you to take an enforcement action. We just say, hey, go ahead and tell the folks, and then we'll deal with it from there.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
And that was one of my concerns also, because we're getting into what is in the court system about private property and public property. And, I mean, they won't even let us pick up the garbage on some of these beaches. Howard's code going to enforce it?
In a local state of emergency, though, when you do that, from my, now code, I probably agree with you, but in a local state of emergency.
That's what I'm getting around to. You're going to have to be the one that enforces it.
Well, I would hope they would take the hint
And I think they will.
without the sheriff coming out there.
I think most of them will. I think they.
Okay, any other public comment? Okay, we got a motion and a second. Is there any questions about this motion and second? I'm going to set it aside briefly to ask for a motion to extend the local state of emergency.
Motion to extend the local state of emergency.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll go back to the other motion. We got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you. Jay, what else? I know you had something else.
Just a couple of things. So another request that I got from a bed tax collector was for the board to consider the verbiage used closing the beaches and specifying that it does not apply. Let me just read this so I get it clear. So to clarify the limited extent of the beach closures by specifying that the closure order does not apply to the use of private beaches by persons including rental tenants who hold a private ownership or use of the beach.
Yeah, so I recommend that we stick with what we've got.
Yeah. Just, like I said, wanted to bring that up. It was a request that I got, so I wanted to bring it forward to the board for consideration.
Stay status quo.
All we got's working.
And then a couple of the updates just on kind of closures. So mostly right now, it's independent vacation rental companies that are open. Sandestin closed yesterday. Seascape is closed. Silver Sands is closed. Grand Boulevard is closed. 30 Avenue isn't officially closed, but I went through there yesterday, and all the retailers are closed. There's a couple of restaurants doing takeout. Alice Beach, Rosemary Beach, Seaside, I mean, they're all closed. So, I mean, effectively, all of our resorts and town communities are all closed. So
Watercolor closed?
watercolor beaches are closed. Their amenities are closed. They're not taking reservations at their hotels. So in essence, they are closed.
Well, I'd like to thank all those businesses and those developments for stepping up and doing the right thing. It's not easy to do something when you know you're going to lose a ton of money. And I had one of my friends from the restaurant industry call me and say, I know closing the beaches was a hard decision, but I applaud what y'all did. And he said, it's going to hurt me financially, but he said, you did the right thing. So for the community, not only the businesses, but the citizens that are stepping up for our county, it's just amazing what they've done. And I'm so proud to be a Walden County and live among people that take things like this very serious.
Along that note, the restaurants in particular have done an amazing job. And then
Getting creative.
I mean,
They're getting creative.
they're getting creative, but that
I can relate to that.
but they're taking. I mean, they're losing significant money, and they're having to lay people off, which is, I mean, when you have to lay somebody off, that's painful. But when I went down, drove the beach yesterday, and I was extremely happy with the sheriff's people, who are all busily working. All the code guys, the lifeguard, I mean, everybody down there was working, the maintenance guys. And as it was mentioned a while ago, this is a team effort.
Yeah.
And the citizens also have to help, and we need everybody's help to get through this. But y'all are all doing a good job. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Jay.
Thank you. And then just real quick, as far as numbers, we'll just keep monitoring the numbers, and we'll relay that to the board as they change.
Thank you. All right, in continuing this discussion, there's some things I think we need to talk about, is whether we're going to do any additional closures or not. One of them is the libraries. There seems to be a lot of folks that will go use that, and understandably so, but they're not large enough that we can do all this separation and whatever else. So right now, I'm kind of looking at maybe we ought to close the libraries for one.
They're closed.
You did close them? Well, good for you. Then why didn't you tell me that for me?
Want to make you look silly.
I guess he did. All right, then now we go back and talk about Grady Brown, Pilcher Park, Morrison Springs. And Morrison Springs has got some activity down there, but because the river's up, it's not being as normal impact. However, Grady Brown, I went by there yesterday on my site visit along the south end, and there was a lot of people there, but from just looking at it, they were clustered like family units. And, we start cutting off different accesses and amenities, people going to do what they're going to do. They got to get out of that house. I'm about stir crazy as it is. But I don't know if y'all want to talk about Grady Brown, Pilcher, Morrison Springs, if we want to take some maybe short-term closure to see what it looks like, or that's one thing I throw on the table for discussion, along with whether we hit these short-term rentals.
Mr. Chairman, a question for admin or legal. You close the libraries. Can admin close these parks as they see fit without board approval, or?
That was one of the things that Chairman spoke of this morning. It may be, if we're not ready to make that leap today, he and I would certainly, with your approval, work with the sheriff, and if he got to a point where we saw, say, a problem that was beyond what we felt was not in the best interest of the citizens, again, with your approval, we could pull the plug on anytime and report back to you at the next board meeting.
Yeah, so under our emergency management plan, a lot of authority during a declared state of a local emergency is delegated to the chair and also the county administrator to make those decisions in the absence of the board being able to meet.
Well, I'm gonna be very candid here. I've been so concerned with the things in my district that I really haven't checked on these other parks. Probably a fault of mine, but, you know, I've got all 26 miles of the beaches, so I'm trying to check them as much as possible. So I'm not an authority on whether I would like the sheriff to state if what he sees, and he has said that to a little bit, but, I mean, right now, I couldn't tell you if we needed to close Grady Brown or Marston Springs.
Well, if the board would consider allowing me to maybe, I'll do the monitoring, because Morrison Springs, now Pilcher Park is in yours,
Yeah.
but no, it ain't either, it's in mine.
Yeah.
It's on the other side of the bridge, but, and I can keep an eye on them. I can be in discussions with the sheriff if he's running into any issues and we need to take some type of action to limit access there. I think the fact that we got boat ramps, both at Pilcher and Grady Brown, that if there is a movement in the future that we have to close it, we'll leave the ramps open, let people have access to the bay. But those are just thoughts right now. I'm not saying we need to do it today. I just want to put it on our radar for discussion.
Well, I definitely think we need to monitor them at the very least. I mean, I'm trying to monitor the beaches as much as I possibly can.
And Mr. Chairman, if you do choose the parks themselves, the bathrooms also,
I noticed that yesterday when I was on the south end along the beaches, all of our regional beach accesses, they shut the bathroom,
Right.
locked them up, so that was good.
the parks, if the decision is made to close other than launching, we probably need to close the restrooms too.
Oh, I'm sure
Yeah,
that's
okay.
probably the case.
All right.
Brian?
I'd like to add Cessna and Legion to that list as well. They both have restroom facilities and boat launches.
Well, Tony, that's in your area, I do believe.
That's Trey's.
I mean, as we're considering the
That's,
Pilcher and Grady
yeah.
Brown, we need to consider Cessna and Legion
And
as
Legion
well.
Park. Yeah.
And then we have a handful of pocket parks, we call them, that don't have restroom facilities, but they do have, you know, parking and sidewalks, picking tables and all that, like Kellogg, Hagen, Bayside Ranchettes.
Okay.
So
Lydia,
what I would suggest is just that, you know, the commissioner, Commissioner Chapman, Larry, Jay, also for any of those parks that are under the TDC's authority, that they'll continue to work with the sheriff in any areas where we see problems, we can address those under the local state.
Monitor these parks
All of the parks.
until we see,
All of the
until it
parks.
becomes a level that we see. Yeah.
Is the Parks Department still going around and cleaning these things?
Our department, yeah, our department cleans all the Bayside, and we are every day.
What about like We Care and Gaskin and Glendale and all those? Should be.
Just for point of reference, all the state parks have closed.
All right, well then, based upon the discussion, I think we just keep monitoring right there and ask the sheriff to let us know if we got any major issues at any of them, and then we can address them accordingly. All right, any other comments? All right, seeing none, we'll move on then. Number 16.
A few things if we may
Go ahead.
finish that up, just by way of letting you know what's going on. First on the list is that we did take action to close libraries. Yesterday, we met admin with our administrators, deputy administrators, legal. And our number one objective was to make sure that our employees were safe, that the public was safe, and in between there, provide whatever services we could. So we asked all of our directors to come up with a plan for their particular area of how that would work. I must say they were very objective in their look. We've got a number of people who are working from home. We've got a number of people that are working offices but are isolated, doors locked, phone number on the door. We're limiting person-to-person contact. Doing our very best to make sure that our people are safe, that the interaction with the public is minimized, yet still able to provide the best level of service we can. And I'll invite any of the others, Stan or Dee Dee, or I saw Mach or any of the other directors who are here that might have anything they want to say on those lines.
As far as the library, there is a digital, you can check out books digitally, and I think we talked to Lewis yesterday, and they put that on the website in a prominent place. So there are ways to deliver the services without
Right.
going to the building.
Right. Next thing is the governor came out with an executive order maybe mid last week that allows some changes to the way this board operates, primarily through teleconference meetings. Jason is working on that. We've got some mechanisms that may work. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be different. But we may be able by the next meeting have it set up and in place where we can all be remotely located, yet through electronics be put together. It would have a mechanism that would allow the public to hear and to participate, to ask questions, to make comments. Is that pretty much right, Jason? Okay. So we'll keep you updated on that as we move forward. And I think that's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, next up on the agenda is number 16. It has to deal with advertising for and hold a budget workshop July the 6th, 10 a.m. in this room. This is one we have to have, so I need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
You got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, 17. Next up is Commissioner Glidewell.
Just briefly, we had, I believe it, we had talked about a matching the Funiac Springs City government on a FDOT grant to study Highway 90. I think we voted up to $25,000. They've come back. The TPO has came back. It's $12,500 is our share. The city's already agreed to fund their $12,500. So, but we need to do ours, and so I make a motion we fund the $12,500, remit it to the FDOT for the Funiac Springs Highway 90 grant.
We need to identify a funding source.
It was that's.
We need.
It was out
budgeted?
It was out of contingencies in the first motion.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, when Mr. Valley and them came up here and asked for it.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, got a motion, second. Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
FDOT.
Commissioner Nipper?
No, sir.
Springs grant.
Commissioner Nick?
Is that
No, sir.
Main Street?
Commissioner Anderson?
Just real quick, a question for Sid. Where do we stand with the contract for the restaurant at the Country Club? I know it's not quite as,
I know.
it's very concerning for the people that
Right.
won the bid, but, I mean, my understanding, we've been very little opening or.
I know that Heather has sent a draft to them for their review, and they gave us back some comments. But frankly, I don't really know. Okay, so Stan's telling me that she's finalizing it, so hopefully by the next board agenda, we would have it on there.
All right.
Anything else, Tony?
Well, you gotta,
Do what?
Oh, I think this is one of the
I'm sorry.
gentlemen.
Didn't see you out there. Go ahead. Identify yourself to the clerk.
I'm sorry. I was just inquiring about the restaurant owner that y'all were talking about.
You identify yourself to the clerk.
Sorry? I'm Gary Owens.
Okay, Gary, thank you.
Owens.
And Mr. Owens is one of the individuals affiliated
Sorry,
with
I've
the
been
company.
out chasing cows all morning.
No,
So
that's okay.
whenever they put the restaurant in, and Shane and my wife have been working together with all of that and everything, and they're trying to get, I know this, what we've got going on right now, it takes precedence over everything, but they're trying to get a Memorial Day weekend to get that thing up and running, and the county was originally going to do equipment and all, and now we're doing the equipment. So, with our prep work and everything, I'd kind of like to get this lease, finalized as soon as possible. I mean, if we wait another month, and you're looking at July, probably, to get this thing up and running.
Well, Gary, the thing about it, you got to consider now, you said something about a memorial function or something out there.
Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I mean, I can't see where we're going to be able to allow a large group of folks to just cluster up out there.
Right now, I think everybody in the world is just keeping their fingers crossed that this thing's going to be a
I hope you're right, but
Yes, sir, I know, Mr. Chapman, and we're well aware of that situation, but there's probably about a month and a half, 2 months worth of prep work that can be done while all of this is going on, just in case.
if we can get a contract back,
Next
the next
agenda.
meeting, that'd be the first meeting in April. So maybe then I would give you
It's going to be
a month and a half. That puts us to end of May.
And I know, I applaud y'all for everything y'all do. I mean, I know this is, this epidemic is just, we've never seen anything like it. I mean, I was over at Inez Gainey's yesterday, and she's 80-something years old. And, we've never seen anything like this, so nobody knows where this is going. And we're all just praying and hoping for the best. But, if we could get this thing, I believe it's already been in the public forum. So, as far as everybody being awarded.
Yes, sir, but we still have to have the board vote on the contract, so we'll have that on the next agenda.
Okay. I mean, I guess
April
that's
14th.
April 14th is our next board meeting.
Barring something crazy happening between now and then,
Yeah.
of course.
That's all subject to change based upon
Yes, sir.
the events that may be going on.
Nobody wants it
Getting that
more than
was-
us, well, except you. We
Yeah, it
want it
just
done.
kind of puts a damper on everything to try to get it ready to go and everything, because if we don't know, we've got people we've been speaking with before this come up. And then now if, it just delays everything back, so. But anyway, I thank y'all so much.
Thank you. All right. I don't have anything under citizens' request. Stephen and Vivian Minchell, are they here? All right, they're not here, so we'll bypass that. 20's been pulled. Is there any other public comments? You can talk about anything. Come forward, ma'am. Identify yourself to the clerk. Spell your last name.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Melissa Register. I'm representing 38 Farmers Markets LLC for the owner, Diane Kolopanos. We're here this morning to request the farmers markets be included in essential businesses and our outdoor event permit be reinstated. There's an immediate need in our county for fresh, locally sourced food. Almost every grocery store in the county is low on essential items, and our Walton County farmers can provide these items. There are many farmers and producers in this community that want to continue to bring their product to the public in a safe, open-air environment. The supply chain involved from farmer or producer to the community touches far fewer hands than the normal grocery supply chain. The markets are outdoor in open spaces, making social distancing easier to accomplish and better than traditional indoor shopping. All 38 farmers markets comply with the CDC guidelines for the safety and handling of their products. Additionally, we have put into place other precautionary measures for the safety of our community, including but not limited to the social distancing of the tents for 6 feet. All vendors will work to minimize customer handling of products and will handle all products intended for purchase. Hand washing stations will be at every tent, and every booth will have food-grade gloves. Our vendors will do their part to follow the CDC and Health Department guidelines, and we will ask the same of our customers. As it pertains to 38 Farmers Markets LLC, we have been cleared by Grand Boulevard to open in Sandestin immediately should our outdoor event permit be reinstated. There is an established precedence for this during the COVID-19 throughout the country. On the 17th of March, the Minnesota farmers markets were declared exempt from the governor's bar and restaurant closure. On the 19th of March, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Connecticut have issued clarification that their farmers markets are essential services and should remain open. On the 20th of March, the California State Public Health Officer and Director of the California Department of Public Health have identified farmers markets as an essential service. Kentucky farmers markets and farmers markets in the state of Oregon were declared essential and exempt from closure. North Carolina farmers markets were classified as grocery stores and considered an important source for food in the local communities. And in Austin, Texas, they exempted their farmers markets from closure. Yesterday, the 23rd of March, the Massachusetts governor exempted their farmers markets from closure. In this uncertain, and in our own state of Florida, Miami-Dade counties have also exempted their farmers markets from closure and identified them as essential businesses. In this uncertain time, we understand the concerns that local and county governments have. We feel strongly that as farmers and producers, we have a role to play in ensuring access to fresh, healthy food for our community and be able to deliver it in a safe manner. We would like to request Walton County to take immediate action to get the markets back up and running, if possible, by this weekend. We believe this is an essential service we can provide to the community to fill an immediate need in a safe, open-air environment. Please consider our petition for our permit to be reinstated and include farmers markets as an essential business. I'm happy to take any questions from the board at this time.
Questions from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Where are these farmers markets located?
So right now, we have gotten permission from Grand Boulevard in Sandestin to reopen our farmers market. The other farmers markets that the 38 Farmers Market LLC does is in Rosemary Beach and Seaside, but we will follow the direction of those communities for when that would reopen. We don't anticipate that anytime soon, but for our local people who live here, we want to be able to provide fresh fruits, vegetables. We have chicken farmers, beef farmers, fresh breads, things that right now, I haven't seen chicken in the grocery store in 2 weeks, and one of our vendors is a chicken farmer, and they process all their meat and bring it to the farmers market. So with the CDC guidelines and our safety protocols in place, it's really almost safer than going into the grocery store for our local community to get fresh, locally sourced fruits and vegetables.
I agree that, local is fresh is better, but I was in the grocery store yesterday and bought up all the chicken I wanted, so.
Oh,
it's.
We're talking about fresh chicken, boss.
Yeah. Well, chicken is chicken to me. I agree. I understand they're under the same vendor.
Yeah, so I want to say last week we suspended all outdoor event permits and special event permits, so they would fall under that.
Yeah.
Didn't the governor, or the president yesterday they declared agriculture a critical industry and agricultural products didn't that happen yesterday?
I'm not sure that would apply to this particular circumstance, but.
Of the events that we do not have permitted any longer, are they social events? I just basically broke down the list, and they look like they were all social events to stop the gatherings.
Yeah, so the outdoor event permits, they and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a threshold. I think it's really just if it's commercial activity. Is that right? That's what triggers it. If there's a gathering of people and commercial activity related to it, those are what qualify for the outdoor event permits through planning, which is what this organization would be under.
And we're just requesting an exemption to that, like many other states, just so that we can provide food to the community. This is not a social thing. We're none of the vendors that are arts and craft. This is only food vendors. This is only farmers that will be at these farmers markets if approved.
I'd rather go there than in a grocery store.
Well, it all depends on how many people are showing up at the same time. I mean, the purpose of doing away with outdoor events was to make sure there weren't crowds. So, I've been to the farmer's market at Seaside. I haven't been to the one in Grand Boulevard, but it draws a crowd. Now, it does. I'm really.
But would it be any different from a grocery store, like an outside grocery store, open air grocery store?
Well,
If it's open air, it's better than an inside as far as
maybe
germ
so,
passing.
but
Mr. Chairman, Holly, do you have any input? Do you permit them like you do for WIC with the vouchers?
We do, with the farmer's market. They can, but that doesn't start until next month. For farmer's market, it's April, I believe, through October. Is the time that we would be
Holly,
that.
Holly,
Right now, they're making
Holly,
calls.
Holly. I know it's easier to talk from right there, but we need to get it up here on where we can record it. Thank
Holly
you.
Holt, Department of Health, Walton. We do, some of our WIC clients actually do use the farmers markets, and you all are receiving those, right? But it starts in April and it ends in October. And to be honest with you right now, I'm not sure if that is going to happen right now. They may be giving us instruction not for us to do that just because of the crisis we're in and talking about the social distancing and some of those kind of things. So I don't have an answer. I can look into that and try to get back to you later with that. If our WIC clients will be using that this year, they may put a halt to that for a while.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make one more comment to the crowding in Seaside? Certainly the Seaside and Rosemary Beach farmers markets are, we do have a certain percentage of customers that are local, but I would definitely say 85% of the people who come to those farmers markets are tourists. And so it is always very crowded. To our more local farmers markets, Grand Boulevard is much less crowded than Seaside and would be anyways at this point, but we're also putting precautions in place to keep the tents further apart. The vendors will only allow one person at a time at their booth, and everyone will be wearing gloves, and the vendors will only be touching the product. So we are putting some CDC guidelines and sanitation processes in place, and understand that we also don't want crowds at the farmers market. We just want to be able to provide fresh, locally sourced product to the community.
Understood. However, you're going to have people there.
Sure.
And
Yes,
you
sir.
may only allow one per tent at one time. But where are the rest of them? They're standing out there clustered up, probably talking. They're not going to separate out. And that is my concern. I know you're trying your best to meet the CDC guidelines and the county and all that, but I just think there's going to be an inability to really cause that separation that really needs to be done. So what's the board's wishes then?
I don't know, I'm torn about this.
What was the ask again? Tell me what the ask was again.
To just reinstate our outdoor event permit and basically just exclude us from the pulling of the permits, and as we're an essential business or essential to the community during this time of crisis.
Do you think if in conjunction with Holly's, the WIC being approved, that we allow
I mean, you could, if you want, wait and see what Holly, I think that's in April that would start, so we could readdress this at our next board meeting. By then, we'll have information from Holly about the WIC program. That might be the best way to approach it.
I like that idea.
Okay. So I think I'm kind of in agreement with that. We'll just see what the state's going to do with the WIC program, which is a farmer's market type of setup, and then go from there.
So we wait to,
So ma'am, what we'll do is, Dee Dee Highnote, our Deputy County Administrator, is making a note to add this to the next board meeting agenda, which is April 14th. So by that point, we'll have information from Holly and we can readdress it, and you don't have to come to the meeting if you don't feel like it. But we'll be sure to address it.
Dee Dee, would you also
Yeah, we should hopefully by then
contact the state?
you should be able to participate electronically. Certainly be able to view it electronically.
We're going to contact the state also to
Great.
see what they're.
I mean, I'd like to
I
see
know
this
other
done. I'd
counties
like
have
to see
approved
this.
it in the state.
I mean,
Yes, sir.
it's I want you to understand, this is not a good time to be a commissioner.
Yes, sir.
It's really a hard time, and I know it's hard on y'all too, but we've got to be really, really careful. And, you know, it seems like more and more decisions are being pushed down to us. And, it's hard for us to not look at the big picture, you know, and you know, this is kind of a surprise for me. I didn't know this was coming. Not that that's your fault. I'm not saying that. That's not any of y'all's fault. It's like I told a lifeguard Sunday. He said, Commissioner Anderson said, I don't know what to do. I've never seen this before. And I said, I haven't either. We're all walking in the dark here, shoulder to shoulder. So give us just a little time, okay?
Yes, sir.
And if we can get a ruling from the state, that would help tremendously. We worry about, as Commissioner Chapman said, I know you guys are going to do your job. You come up here and you say, I'm going to do your job. I believe you. But if Trey and I and Bill and Larry go down there separately and we see each other and we're waiting for y'all, now this is our fault, not yours, but that's how people are. They gather up. So I would kind of like to wait just a little bit. I know that hurts y'all, and I'm sorry. I think that we need to just be super, super careful. And this is something, if, Mr. Chairman, correct me if I'm wrong, because usually I am, but we can look at this in a week.
Can,
You
and we
know,
will. We're
We
going to be
will
looking at a lot of
we-
things in a
The
week.
more information that comes in, if we get something from the state that says these people are exempt, then we can do something right away.
Okay.
But we will look at this weekly for y'all.
Great.
This is just a really bad time for America, and we've got to be very, very careful.
Thank you for the effort.
Yes,
In
ma'am.
this trying
Yes,
time.
ma'am.
And believe me, if y'all open, I'll get down there and get some of that fresh chicken.
Okay.
You're supposed to hang off the chicken. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Mr.
Melissa.
Chairman.
Thank you.
Tony, you ain't supposed to be eating chicken.
I'm supposed to be chicken, not beef.
Not fried chicken.
Not fried
Not
chicken.
frying it. I'm not frying
Hey,
it.
anyone
Tasty Freeze
else?
has got some really good fried
Is there any
chicken.
other
Not for me.
public comment?
Not for me. So I will.
Got a good pub burger too.
All right, there's no other public comment. Let's see. I think that's all we got.
Sir, did you have a comment?
You need to
When did you?
recess till
Yeah.
15.
My name's Joe Lindsay, and I live in Crestview, and last Saturday, we had our farmer's market at Niceville. Mr. Corbin allowed us to go ahead and have our farmer's market, and like Melissa said, we followed the protocol to the T. Gloves, washing stations, everything, and it was a tremendous turnout. So,
Where do y'all have it in Niceville?
right there in Palm Plaza.
How often do y'all have it there? Is it once a week?
It's
Just
every Saturday from 9 to 1.
Okay, I'm not gonna promise, but I'll try to go down there and look at
Yes,
what y'all
sir.
are doing.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I just want to throw that in.
All right.
I know, and I'm sorry, sir.
Oh, it's okay. I mean-
It's a tough time.
It's a serious thing, but then again, you look at the grocery stores,
I understand.
you know, and this is an open air market. So it's just something to think about.
Thank you, sir.
All right. All right, seeing nothing left on the agenda, We do have a special meeting.
Yes.
It'll happen right at the conclusion of this one, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn
Motion
this
to
meeting.
adjourn.
Well, we're not adjourning, we're just going into the special meeting.
Motion to go into a special
Want to do it
meeting.
that way? Okay. Motion to go into a special meeting.
Oh, wait, I need to read
Okay.
the announcement while,
I know.
I'm sorry. Okay. All right, so please take notice that the Walton County Board of County Commissioners will hold a special meeting and a closed executive session. It's today, March 24th, 2020. We are starting at approximately 10:20 a.m. This is, and we're located at the Walton County Courthouse, 571 U.S. Highway 90 East of Phoenix Springs, Florida. The purpose of the executive session is to discuss the following: Beach Life Land Trust et al. Versus Walton County, Florida, case number 2019 CA 217. The following members will be in attendance: Commissioner Bill Chapman, Commissioner Trey Nick, Commissioner Tony Anderson, Commissioner Danny Glidewell, and Commissioner Melanie Nipper, County Administrator Larry Jones, County Attorney Sydney Noyes, and Special Counsel to the Board Bill Warner. A court reporter is present and will prepare a verbatim record of the meeting, which will be sealed until the conclusion of the litigation. The executive session is not open to the public pursuant to Section 286.011, Paragraph 8, Florida statutes, and the executive session will last no more than 30 minutes. So with that,